everything will change.
I'm William, 41 years old. I grew up in poverty in the Motor City. It was one of those neighborhoods where the ice cream truck stopped coming because the driver kept getting robbed. My dad worked at Ford until his back finally gave out when I was 15. He slipped a disc, or perhaps it just gave up in frustration. It's hard to determine. My mom cleaned offices at night. She would come home smelling of Lysol and disappointment, but somehow we always had food on the table. Truly heartwarming moments, like one of those somber documentaries with sad piano tunes and a narrator who whispers everything. At 16, I began working in commercial plumbing. A summer job, right? It was meant to be a temporary gig. But by the end of the first week, I discovered I enjoyed it. It was honest labor. Messy, noisy, back-breaking, and cursing-inducing labor. But honest nonetheless. And unlike people, toilets don't deceive you. By the age of 22, I obtained my master plumber's license. And by 25, I was naive enough to believe I could manage a business. I borrowed $5,000 from my dad's retirement savings, the same savings he probably intended for a new lazy boy and some cheap bourbon. But he had faith in me, or at least believed I'd repay him before he needed dentures. I launched my own commercial plumbing and HVAC firm. Have you ever tried explaining HVAC systems to someone at a gathering? Don't. It empties the room quicker than a fart in a sauna. Then came Eliana, at a trade show in 2001. She was 23, just graduated, selling pipe fittings as if they were designer bags, blonde, petite, with a smile that made you feel like the center of the universe just before she sold you 6 pallets of overpriced copper elbows. She had a talent. We dated for 2 years, and I proposed because, well, she made it seem like I'd hit the cosmic jackpot. That was my first big mistake. I thought that after we married, she would cut back on the Gucci and start enjoying the simple pleasures of Costco. You know, finding joy in bulk paper towels and sensible sedans. Nope. Spoiler alert. Eliana didn't just have expensive preferences, she had elite ones, Olympic-level spending habits. After our son Henry was born in 2005, she quit her job, claiming she wanted to be a devoted mother. What she really desired was to be present at Nordstrom 5 days a week. I was working 70 hours weekly just to keep up with the expenses. I thought I was being a good husband, doing what men are supposed to do. Work hard, pay the bills, and overlook the ominous credit card statements. A classic rookie mistake, but hey, I was young and foolish, mostly foolish. By 2010, the business was generating $3.2 million annually. We had 27 employees, owned our trucks and equipment outright, and I had just purchased Eliana her dream home. A 4,200 square foot colonial with a circular driveway and a wine fridge larger than my first apartment cost me $680,000. The type of house with 3 living rooms, but no space for peace and quiet. That was also the year Amelia was born. Our daughter, a beautiful girl, took after Eliana, unfortunately. In many ways, life appeared picture-perfect. Glossy Christmas cards, monogrammed everything, while I was still crawling under urinals for a living. And that's when I made my second big mistake. I hired my younger brother, Ezra, as my operations manager. Ezra was 35, 3 years my junior, and still behaved as if the universe owed him an apology and a gift basket. He had been hopping from job to job like a pinball with a trust fund every time I reached out to him. He had a new position in solar panel sales, flipping houses, or something related to kombucha distribution, which I still question the legality of. He was quite the smooth talker, I'll give him that. The type of person who could sell sand in the Sahara and then persuade you it was your idea to make the purchase. And every time he lost a job, it was never his fault. Not a single time. He was let go from a sales position because, and I quote, "My manager felt threatened by how well I connected with clients." Translation: he forgot to show up for half of his shifts and likely took long lunches that overlapped with happy hour. Then there was the stint at the construction company. That one ended because they didn't value my innovative suggestions. I asked what those suggestions were, He claimed he proposed eliminating lunch breaks to boost productivity and ended up in a fist fight with a foreman over it. Truly visionary ideas, but I felt compassion for him. I genuinely did. Growing up, our parents always compared him to me. I was the dependable one, the success story, the golden child, which in our household essentially meant I could unclog toilets and manage a checkbook. Mom would often hit him with comments like, "Why can't you be more like your brother William?" Or my personal favorite, "William never gave us this kind of trouble." Subtle, Mom, a real boost to his confidence. So I thought that if I offered Ezra a genuine chance, a real opportunity to demonstrate his worth, he might finally stop living like a cautionary tale from an after-school special. Maybe all he needed was someone to have faith in him. And like a fool, I chose to be that person. Oh, the irony. It should have been a warning sign parade, but I was too busy shining my halo to see it. I brought him on as our operations manager, thinking I was being generous, even noble, imagining I'd be the one to help change his life for the better. What I actually did was give a fox the keys to the henhouse and hoped for the best. To be fair, Ezra excelled with clients. That part was truthful. He could charm the pants off a nun and have her laughing by dessert. He had a knack for making people feel as if they'd been lifelong friends after just 5 minutes and a lukewarm handshake. Prospective clients adored him. Repeat clients also loved him, likely because they never saw the invoices. But when it came to actual work, the guy disappeared more often than my socks after laundry day. Every time I turned around, he was missing. Where's Ezra? Oh, developing leads. Where's Ezra? Maintaining client relationships. Where's Ezra? Probably at home watching Shark Tank and calling it market research. I managed the technical aspects, all of it. The pipes, the boilers, the crews, the 3 a.m. emergency calls about a burst main under some upscale sushi restaurant. Meanwhile, Ezra was out networking, which in his terms meant sipping overpriced coffee and hoping to run into someone who still answered his calls. His wife, Chloe, a sweet woman, quiet and diligent, the type of person who, if life were just, would be married to a stable accountant who remembered anniversaries and didn't use crypto crash as an excuse for why the electric bill was overdue. They had 2 small children, adorable little ones with Ezra's dimples and hopefully none of his work ethic. I told myself I was making the right choice, that I was assisting family, that I was providing Ezra with something he had never experienced before. Stability. For 8 years, I bore the burden of that business like a plumber's version of Atlas, while Ezra paraded around as if he had single-handedly created the HVAC industry. Sure, he landed some deals. I'll admit he deserves credit, but I was the one doing the heavy lifting, managing the teams, resolving every issue, both literal and figurative. Ezra received the handshakes, the gratitude emails, the "you're a lifesaver" texts from clients who viewed him as some sort of blue-collar savior. Meanwhile, Eliana was out here spending money like it was going out of style and had an expiration date. Designer purses, spa days, car leases that cost more than my first home. She once purchased throw pillows that were $200. Pillows, which you don't even sit on. They merely exist. The kids grew up believing that dad meant direct access to cash. I was the family ATM, insert a guilt trip, withdraw a weekend getaway. If I had $1 for every time I heard, "But Henry's friend has one," I could have retired at 35 and relocated to Aruba. And as for me, I convinced myself this was what success entailed. This was the dream, providing for my family, creating something enduring, a legacy, and all that sentimental nonsense. I repeated that falsehood until it sounded virtuous. Then, 2 years ago, everything began to fall apart. And by fall apart, I don't mean minor cracks in the foundation. I mean a full-blown wrecking ball to the gut. It turns out that while I was working hard to keep everything intact, my dear family was sharpening their knives behind my back. The first warning sign was when Eliana signed up for a yoga studio, not just any yoga studio. This place charged $200 a month for people to sweat in a room heated to the temperature of Satan's armpit. They called it hot yoga. I called it overpriced group stretching. Suddenly, she had more Lululemon than a boutique in Beverly Hills. Sports bras that were $70. Leggings that cost $130. One day I stepped on her new yoga mat, and she looked at me as if I had wiped my boots on the Mona Lisa. I asked her, "What is this made of?" "Unicorn hide," she replied. "It's eco-conscious." "Oh great, it's overpriced and pretentious." Then came the spiritual awakening. Classic, a 40-year-old suburban mom on a journey of self-discovery. How unique. You'd think she had found a new religion, the way she spoke about chakras and energy flow. Morning yoga, evening yoga, weekend retreats, where they engaged in activities like sound bathing and manifesting abundance. Meanwhile, I was manifesting invoices and repairing broken sewer lines. She also started these cleanse diets, juice, smoothies, whatever trendy drink Instagram suggested that week. The fridge turned into a graveyard of expired kale and probiotic sludge. She devoured self-help books as if they were scripture. The universe has your back, breaking free from limiting beliefs. Eat, pray, spend. I should have paid closer attention to that last one. Then Ezra began appearing at the house more frequently. At first, it seemed innocent family visits, right? Helping out. I'd return home after a 12-hour shift, reeking of pipe glue and regret, and Eliana would casually mention, "Oh, Ezra dropped by around lunch. We went over the project details." Or perhaps your brother simply wanted to check in, ensuring everything was fine while you're working so hard. Certainly, nothing says a caring sibling like those unexpected midweek visits while I'm on job sites 40 minutes away, yet I chose not to question it. I was worn out, even appreciative, thinking, wow, Ezra is really stepping up, taking care of my wife and kids. What a guy, what a fool I was. Then the kids began to behave differently as well. Henry, now 17 and brimming with the confidence of a teenager who believes TikTok is a legitimate career choice, would get visibly nervous whenever I returned home unexpectedly, as if he feared I might catch him in the act of committing the unforgivable crime of folding laundry or being near a textbook. Amelia, at 14, practically relocated to her room. I would catch a glimpse of her once a day when she surfaced, pale and squinting like a vampire, just to microwave some overpriced organic quinoa Eliana was advocating that week. Family dinners transformed into hostage negotiations, everyone sitting there chewing as if they were scared to set off a landmine with an ill-timed comment. I would inquire about school, and you'd think I had tossed a live grenade into the mashed potatoes. And Eliana, her spending escalated from, "This seems excessive," to, "We're just one handbag away from bankruptcy court." First, it was the car, a shiny new BMW X5 for $65,000 because, apparently, her 3-year-old Mercedes was no longer dependable. Never mind that it had only 35,000 miles and had never made a peep of complaint. You'd think the engine had personally offended her with the way she spoke about it. "It just doesn't feel secure anymore, William." "Oh, I'm sorry. Does it not provide a back massage while reciting affirmations?" Then came the kitchen renovation, $45,000 for granite countertops and custom cabinets. Not because anything was broken, no, but because the old kitchen was outdated and embarrassing when guests came over, as if we'd be socially ostracized for having functional appliances from 2015. How would we ever recover socially? But that wasn't the end of it. No, this was a lifestyle upgrade, a spending arms race, and we were on the losing end. Every month brought new wardrobe additions, designer handbags costing more than a down payment, shoes that were worn once and then forgotten, like some high-end Cinderella suffering from amnesia, jewelry for special occasions that, apparently, didn't include my birthday, our anniversary, or any moment involving my presence. Spa weekends with her sister morphed into spa weeks at luxury resorts with names that sounded like villains from a Bond film. The Elysian Whisper Azure Tranquility, the Detox Sanctum, Whatever that last one was, it detoxed me of several $1,000s. And the credit card statements. Oh, they were a horror film with no resolution. 9 grand 1 month at Nordstrom, 12 the next, scattered across Saks, Neiman Marcus, and boutiques I didn't even know existed. There was a $1,200 charge from a place called Maison de Soleil. I looked it up. They sell decorative incense and crystalline-infused moisturizer. I asked her if we were planning to summon a spirit or just hydrate one. So naturally, I inquired about the bills. Just asked, not yelled, not blamed. Just, hey, Eliana, what's up with this $900 handbag? And do we really need Himalayan salt lamps in every room? That's when she would explode like a nuclear bomb made of yoga mats and resentment. I gave up my career for this family, William. I could have achieved so much if I hadn't sacrificed everything to raise your children and support your dreams. Her professional journey, by the way, began with an entry-level sales position at a plumbing supply firm. She spoke of it as if she had relinquished the CEO position at Microsoft. Honestly, if I received $1 for every time she claimed she deserved nice things, I could have purchased her an entirely new BMW and driven it off a cliff for the symbolism. All my friends enjoy nice things, William. Why shouldn't I? And I would respond that we also need money. I don't know, Liv, but that just made me seem controlling and frugal. Which is ironic, coming from someone who once spent $400 on yoga pants because they were ethically dyed. What does that even imply? Did monks bless them while chanting over recycled water? Any disputes? They consistently concluded in the same manner, her yelling, me seething, and then me conceding because I prioritized my mental health over my finances. Then Ezra began to behave differently as well, more laid back, excessively relaxed, like someone who just discovered his student loans were a clerical mistake. He would make offhand remarks like, "Man, you're putting in too much effort. And have you ever considered enjoying life more, Will?" Absolutely, because nothing says relaxation like draining funds to support your wife's enlightenment and your brother's vanishing act. Maybe you should take a break, he suggested one day while reclining in my office chair, sipping my coffee as if he owned the place. Let me relieve you of some responsibilities. Oh, right. That's exactly what I need, Ezra managing more tasks. Because if there's one thing he's renowned for, it's his reliability and meticulousness. Next, he'd be proposing that I hand him my wallet and simply trust the process. His wife, Chloe, bless her heart, started appearing noticeably uneasy at family events, like someone held captive by a dinner napkin. I attributed it to sister-in-law drama. You know, the typical strain when your brother-in-law is married to a woman who could teach a master class in high-maintenance living. Nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, back at home, closeness with Eliana vanished quicker than a puddle in Phoenix. She attributed it to stress, hormones, fatigue, the moon, Mercury in retrograde, you name it. Every reason except, I just don't like you anymore. Yet, she looked amazing. Working out 6 days a week, whipping up daily smoothies from chia seeds and unicorn tears, getting facials, exfoliating as if her skin were going to be evaluated by NASA, purchasing outfits that practically screamed, "Please notice me," from across a parking lot. Form-fitting dresses, new heels, perfume that exuded ambition and betrayal. And me? I was too preoccupied playing the world's most delusional game of denial. I thought if I simply worked harder, expanded the business, we'd turn a corner. Perhaps money would resolve what years of communication, therapy, and common sense could not. Classic move, right? When uncertain, double down on the hustle. So I expanded, added an electrical division, acquired 3 shiny new service trucks that cost more than my first house, hired 8 new technicians. We achieved $3.8 million in revenue in 2022. I should have been celebrating, but all I sensed was this growing distance, as if my family was drifting away on a boat while I stood on the dock, waving like a fool. It felt almost as if they were plotting something behind my back. 3 months ago, Amelia requested to borrow my iPad for a school assignment. A completely normal request. She claimed hers was charging. Fine, no issue. I went to her room to retrieve it from her desk and accidentally knocked over a pile of textbooks. Out comes an old Android device, tucked between pre-calculus for dummies and a nearly empty bag of Takis. It certainly didn't resemble hers. Honestly, it didn't resemble anything we had. Now I understand that curiosity is said to be the downfall of cats, but satisfaction brings them back, and this cat had inquiries. The phone wasn't even secured, just lying there wide open as if it wished to be discovered. A digital confessional. I accessed the messages and swiftly understood this wasn't Amelia's phone. It belonged to Eliana. Evidently she required a burner phone, just in case the FBI showed up or she needed to arrange a betrayal with extra toppings. Messages. Countless messages. Between her and Ezra, not merely about yoga, family updates, or the Moore Project. No, this was the type of information that makes your stomach drop and your mind enter denial mode just to keep your legs moving. They weren't merely having an affair. They were orchestrating my total ruin. 2 years, that's how far back the messages between Eliana and Ezra reached. 2 entire years of deceit, betrayal, and digital Shakespearean treachery, all neatly compiled in little text bubbles like a warped Hallmark collection. They didn't even attempt to conceal it. No aliases, no clever euphemisms, just candid, detailed discussions about how I was the one hindering them. Apparently, I'm the anchor that keeps their ship of happiness anchored in despair. Ezra stated they deserved to be together, and Eliana, bless her faithful heart, concurred, adding that once I was gone, they could finally live freely. Like Bonnie and Clyde. If Bonnie had a yoga obsession and Clyde had a man crush, they mocked me, of course, repeatedly. Eliana called me that obstinate plumber in several messages, claiming I was too oblivious to notice what was unfolding right before me. And my personal favorite, too dull to keep any woman interested for the long haul. Wow. Thanks, Eliana. Nothing like perusing your wife's dissertation on why you're a human sleeping pill to cap off your afternoon. Ezra labeled me the money machine, not my brother. Not a business partner, just a resource, like a bank with plumbing abilities. Good for financing the lifestyle, he wrote, but not clever enough to see he's being exploited. Nice to know my hard work funded someone's Lululemon obsession and emotional betrayal. One thread really hit me hard. Christmas Eve. Last year, I left the house at 7 p.m. to respond to an emergency call. A pipe had burst at a nursing home. Without my help, the heat would have failed, and a dozen elderly individuals might have spent Christmas morning frozen in their beds like TV dinners. I was crawling under a building in sub-zero temperatures, elbows deep in moldy insulation and despair, thinking, this is what it means to be a good man. Meanwhile, Ezra and Eliana were messaging each other about how pathetic I was for prioritizing work over family. Eliana, he's literally out there fixing someone's pipes on Christmas Eve, Ezra texted, followed by a laughing emoji. And she responded, she actually said, he deserves to be alone. No woman wants to be second to plumbing emergencies. Well, isn't that just delightful? You're out there saving lives one wrench turn at a time, and back home your wife is roasting you like a turkey, with your brother as the sous chef. But it only got worse. Naturally it did, because if betrayal were an Olympic event, these two would be competing for gold. Photos, images I can never erase from my mind. Eliana was wearing lingerie I had never encountered before, which made me realize that Victoria's secret truly was a secret. Ezra was lounging in my office after hours, resembling a second-rate Bond villain, and then both of them were in my bed. The bed I purchased after countless hours of hard work, strained muscles, and bloodied hands, and there it was, obvious as day. Ezra was shirtless, his feet propped up on my nightstand, as if he owned the place. Eliana was grinning like she had just hit the jackpot. All of this was happening on my sheets. But the most painful part, the thing that genuinely shattered something within me? The kids were aware. Henry had been covering for them. My own son was deleting security footage from the home system I installed with my own two hands, using around $1,200 of my hard-earned plumber income, intended specifically to keep the family safe. I suppose I should have been clearer. Safe from burglars, not from his mother's clandestine Pilates sessions with Uncle Backstabber. He would wait until I left for work, then engage in his little teenage hacking routine, probably wearing sunglasses indoors like some sort of budget James Bond, erasing any evidence of Ezra visiting during school hours. I had programmed that system to alert me if a raccoon even sneezed in the backyard. It turns out, I needed raccoon-level loyalty, too. And Amelia, oh, the Little Miss Honors student. She was a master at spinning tales. The fabrications flowed from her lips as if she were vying for a Pulitzer Prize. Mom's at book club. Mom went shopping with Aunt Linda. Mom's having coffee with Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith has been deceased since 2019. All lies, all meticulously coordinated, all delivered with the innocent, angelic smile of a 14-year-old who should have been focused on algebra homework, not orchestrating covert operations to conceal her mother's infidelity. And the icing on this betrayal cake? They had a group chat, a family group chat. Not our family, their family. Eliana, Ezra, Henry, and Amelia, complete with code names. I was labeled the boss, while Ezra was Uncle D, which I assume stands for Ducicino. Their meetings, study sessions, my business trips, golden opportunities, my late nights on job sites and in freezing crawl spaces, free passes. They even included timestamps like some kind of betrayal manual. When I called to inform them I'd be late, Henry would ask, "Is the coast clear?" And sweet Amelia would respond, "All clear." B is working late again. B, I suppose Dad was too intimate for a betrayal memo. I scrolled through the messages with trembling hands, feeling as though I had stepped into a soap opera penned by the devil. The things my kids said hurt more than anything Eliana or Ezra had written. They weren't just bystanders. They were fully involved. Knee-deep, there were texts mocking my personal habits. Henry, he's still wearing that ridiculous blue work shirt. Amelia, OMG, I told Mom to toss it, but she said he'd notice. Yes, heaven forbid I notice someone throwing away my favorite shirt. The one I bled into while rewiring the Garza kitchen and nearly electrocuted myself twice. And don't even get me started on the ridicule regarding family time. I would suggest weekend trips, normal family bonding, and they reacted as if I had just asked them to clean toilets with a toothbrush. One particular thread made my stomach turn. Father's Day last year. There I was, grilling burgers in the backyard like some blissfully unaware sitcom dad, flipping patties with a smile, thinking, wow, we really are making memories, while in the group chat. Amelia, how long does this thing last? Henry, I don't know, probably until 6. I can't wait for this to be over. Ezra, hang in there, kids. Normalcy will return soon. Eliana, just keep smiling and nodding. I'll get the potato salad ready. Back to the usual routine. Isn't that just so touching? Nothing embodies family values like counting down the minutes until you can return to your deceitful ways. I felt such pride that day, standing by the grill, spatula in hand, thinking, wow, look at this. A tight-knit family enjoying a sunny Father's Day. Burgers cooking, kids giggling, wife pretending she still appreciated the way I breathe. What a lovely, steaming pile of theatrical nonsense. Once the smoke settled, both literally and figuratively, I found myself in Amelia's room. Door locked, heart heavy, screenshotting my way through the complete chaos that had overtaken my life. 2 hours of digital excavation, sifting through betrayal as if I were Indiana Jones with internet access. Group chats, private messages, shared calendars, even Venmo transactions labeled for tutoring and study snacks. I almost admired their commitment, almost. They weren't just having an affair, they were conducting board meetings. I uncovered bank account details, not mine, of course, but theirs. Joint accounts I never knew existed. Ezra and Eliana strategizing how to shuffle money around so I wouldn't catch on. There was even a spreadsheet, color-coded, and all. Who says infidelity can't be organized? And then the pièce de résistance, their timeline for removing me from the picture. It was like perusing a project plan from hell. Phase 1. Isolate William. Phase 2. Undermine his self-esteem. Phase 3. Push for exhaustion. Phase 4. Clean house, both literally and financially. All very corporate. I half expected an attached PowerPoint presentation. The last message I screenshotted from Eliana to Ezra was time-stamped 3 days prior. Cookie is starting to question the expenses. We need to be more cautious. Perhaps it's time to make our move. She referred to me as Cookie, and there it was. We need to discuss or I feel guilty. Just time to make our move, like I was a chess piece. They were tired of playing around, knights and queens bored with the plumber pawn. They weren't merely planning to end our marriage. They were orchestrating a downfall, financially, emotionally, reputationally. Make me lose everything I had built, with these calloused hands and long hours, then swoop in and take the remnants. I think the only thing missing was a dramatic musical score. When I finally rose, my hands weren't trembling. I wasn't weeping. No racing heart, just a quiet, icy tranquility. Everything clicked into place now, like finally grasping the twist ending of a movie I had been watching in the dark. I returned the phone precisely where I found it, with the same care I used to tighten a valve beneath a sink, precision and silence. Then I made my way downstairs, and there they were, the entire cast of my personal soap opera. Eliana glanced up from her kale and quinoa with that familiar smile. "Hey babe, how was work today?" Ezra was sipping my soda as if he owned the whole fridge. A client today thought he could negotiate plumbing rates. "Can you believe that?" He chuckled. "They think plumbing's a breeze." I looked straight at him and smiled. "No," I said, "they truly don't grasp the skill required." He laughed as if it were a joke. I wasn't joking. Henry asked if I could assist with college applications this weekend. "Sure, buddy. Let's get you into a fantastic school so you can learn new ways to betray people." Amelia needed funds for a school ski trip. "Certainly, princess. Here's another 100 from your beloved old fool of a father." Eliana mentioned she secured a dinner reservation for us at that new steakhouse downtown this Saturday evening. "Just the two of us," she added with a playful wink. So charming. I nodded, smiled, and made all the arrangements I knew I would ultimately ignore. Because that evening, while they enjoyed lasagna and watched Modern Family, I was already laying the groundwork, not for plumbing, not for a bathroom renovation, but for the most crucial endeavor of my life, the methodical dismantling of everyone who had betrayed me. Step 1. Gathering intelligence. No theatrical confrontations, no shattered dishes, no shouting matches in the driveway. I needed to be clever, discreet, and systematic. Over the coming month, I recorded everything, using my work phone to capture the burner phone's contents whenever I could access it. I felt like a secret agent, but with worse lighting and far more betrayal each night. While my wife snored next to me as if she hadn't just conspired to ruin my finances with my brother, I'd scroll through her texts and murmur, "Smile, you're on candid camera, traitors." I set up a hidden camera in my home office after noticing Ezra had been going through my files. Apparently, my desk drawers are the Bermuda Triangle of secrets. It turned out he had been taking pictures of financial documents and client contracts. You know, the sort of items normal brothers pilfer when they're not too busy sleeping with your spouse. I created a detailed timeline of their affair using credit card statements and security footage they overlooked, because despite thinking they were criminal masterminds, they couldn't track every camera I had installed. The footage was especially incriminating. Ezra's car in my driveway during work hours, as if he were delivering Girl Scout cookies. Him entering through the back door, always the back door, as if that made it less obvious. And Eliana welcoming him in outfits that must have been from the infidelity chic section of a catalog I never subscribed to. Outfits she would inevitably change out of before I returned home, much like a magician performing the saddest disappearing act imaginable. Eliana made it easy. Her arrogance was astounding, almost Oscar-worthy. She reserved hotel rooms on our joint credit card, claiming they were for girls' weekends. Yeah, apparently girls now meant Ezra and only Ezra, and the weekend lasted a mere 4 hours. The charges were always for single occupancy, always conveniently timed with Ezra's mysterious personal days. I suppose love means never having to justify your PTO. She purchased lingerie and charged it to our account. Lingerie I never saw her wear, not even once. I guess she was saving the nice stuff for her book club. She even bought Ezra pricey gifts and categorized them as family presents on the credit card statements. Because nothing screams togetherness like a surprise Rolex for your wife's lover, funded by her husband. One particularly offensive purchase, a $300 silk tie she bought him for Boss's Day. Yeah, Boss's Day, apparently. I was paying to celebrate my brother becoming the boss of my business, my home, and surprise my bedroom. It's as if they were hosting a betrayal-themed gift exchange, and I was the unwitting sponsor. And all this time, I was still preparing lunches and fixing leaks like the world's most oblivious fool. The woman who once called me a financial genius for building a multi-million-dollar enterprise somehow believed I couldn't grasp basic math. I mean, honestly, Eliana, I can calculate cost projections in my sleep. But you believed I would overlook $1,200 in hotel expenses, categorized as spa with Carla? When Carla relocated to Texas 2 years back, Ezra wasn't exactly discreet either. He took my company vehicles for personal journeys to meet Eliana because nothing says, I value my brother, like using his branded plumbing truck to go spend the night with his spouse. Really smooth move. I had GPS tracking installed on all the trucks. I could monitor precisely where he traveled and when. His preferred destination seemed to be room 112 at the Fairfield Inn. Very classy. He even billed romantic dinners to his company credit card. Dinners, mind you, that conveniently coincided with Eliana's book club evenings. I use quotation marks because unless her book club was held in the dimly lit corner booth of Le Rêve Bistro with house red oysters and Ezra's hand on her thigh instead of a copy of Little Fires Everywhere, I'm fairly certain she was merely skipping chapters. The phone calls were another gift. Lengthy, romantic speeches during work hours. All recorded thanks to the very phone system I had installed. The same one I was told was too pricey at the time, worth every penny. I overheard one of their chats in my truck one day while eating a gas station sandwich. She actually called him her true husband and lamented that I was hindering their future. All of this while she was enjoying my actual earnings, living in my actual home, and sipping green smoothies I was funding. And then, the pièce de résistance. I arrived early one Saturday and discovered a pile of love letters Ezra had penned to her on my business letterhead, printed using my printer, signed, sealed, and disturbingly affectionate. I stood there reading them in the copy room, enveloped by toner dust and betrayal. You make me feel like a man again? One line read. The rest was even worse. There were plumbing metaphors I won't repeat. The kids? That was the real punch to the gut. Henry had been consistently deleting segments of our home security footage, probably thinking he was the little tech genius of the year. Unfortunately for him, he didn't realize I had set up cloud backups after he accidentally wiped footage the first time. There's something unsettling about watching your teenage son assist your wife in covering her tracks so she can sneak around with your brother. It just feels different. Amelia wasn't far behind in the betrayal race. The girl had been reposting old Instagram pictures, time-stamped with falsehoods. Why night with the girls? Self-care? Besties. Photos taken 6 months prior, while Eliana was actually across town with Ezra ordering room service and reclaiming their joy. Amelia even had the audacity to tag locations, fake ones. I raised a digital illusionist. My children had essentially turned into character actors in their mother's soap opera of deceit, which, to be fair, they executed with impressive accuracy. If betrayal were a high school class, they'd both be at the top of their class. That was when I understood this wasn't merely a personal crisis. This was a hostile takeover. So, I transitioned to phase 2, financial readiness. Unlike the fairy tales people share on Reddit about vanishing into the woods with a dog and a shotgun, I had a real business, payroll, insurance, and employees who relied on me. I couldn't simply disappear in a cloud of righteous indignation. Initially, I sought advice from 3 different lawyers. One from my usual firm, one from a boutique litigation group founded by my college friends, and one from a guy working out of a strip mall who, surprisingly, proved to be the most astute. All 3 attorneys conveyed the same message. Infidelity still holds weight in this state, particularly when it involves family dynamics and financial deceit. The key term wasn't infidelity, it was conspiracy. That's when the situation became intriguing. I established a new LLC in Wyoming, a place that prioritizes anonymity and asset safeguarding more than some witness protection initiatives. Completely distinct from my primary business, I began to transfer assets gradually. I sold my vintage Mustang and motorcycle to a collector friend privately. I didn't hesitate when Eliana inquired about the garage space. I told her I was clearing out clutter. She nodded and resumed her search for spa retreats. I deposited the cash into a new bank account under a business name she wouldn't recognize and wouldn't bother to inquire about. I sold some stocks I had held since 2012. I informed Eliana that I was rebalancing my investment portfolio. She responded, "That sounds fancy," and asked if I could transfer additional funds to her spending account because she had her eye on a bag she couldn't stop thinking about. I was tempted to ask if it was shaped like my self-respect. Then came phase 3, restructuring the business. Terminating Ezra outright would raise suspicions. He wasn't categorized as a traditional employee, more like a partner technically, but partners can be dismissed. All I needed was a paper trail, a long, pungent, incriminating paper trail. So I got busy documenting everything, every missed deadline, every overcharged client, every suspiciously long lunch break where his truck's GPS indicated he was parked at a Days Inn, every careless error, every dollar misappropriated, every time he scheduled a job and failed to show up. I had the evidence, actual evidence. And with enough of it, I would have what I required. Just cause. A clean, legal, indisputable rationale that would warrant his removal. I promoted 2 of my most reliable senior technicians to operations managers, Marcus and Dale. They were actual adults. I entrusted them with more responsibilities, better compensation, even equity in future projects, rewards for not being complete disasters. They managed to cover the gaps so the company could operate when Ezra inevitably went missing or suffered food poisoning again, which, interestingly, always occurred the morning after poker night. I documented everything. Every instance Ezra disappeared mid-client meeting to take a call. Every time he mispronounced technical jargon in front of engineers as if he were reading IKEA instructions in Latin. Every time he assured the client that we would definitely expedite their permits through personal connections, which I assumed meant Google. Then came the icing on the fraud cake. Ezra was skimming funds, carelessly labeling personal dinners as vendor consultations. He charged car repairs for his Tesla, which he claims is a company vehicle because he once drove a client to lunch in it. He even billed a weekend getaway to Napa as a staff retreat. I let it slide, gathered the receipts, and smiled through clenched teeth while he toasted to family business. Step 4. Act as if everything is normal while my wife and brother practiced betrayal like it was an Olympic event. 2 months. 2 long months of forcing smiles through dinners where Eliana would rave about her yoga glow while suspiciously smelling like Ezra's cologne. She would come home with her hair looking as if she had fought a raccoon and lost. Pickies, jewelry, handbags, perfume. "Oh, it's from my sister," she would say. It seems her sister has a side gig as a luxury goods supplier and has access to Ezra's AMEX. Then the peak of entitled absurdity arrived. During one dinner, featuring dry chicken and her third glass of wine, she mentioned it nonchalantly, as if she were placing a food order. "I believe we should consider a kitchen makeover, something modern. Quartz countertops, smart appliances, perhaps open shelving." I nodded in agreement. "What's the budget?" "Just around 90,000, she replied, using the same casual tone as if asking for the salt. 90,000? I echoed. "Are the cabinets crafted by blind monks?" She rolled her eyes in response. "Successful individuals invest in their residences." Right, just like all those Forbes articles I've read about millionaires who succeeded by purchasing imported tile backsplashes. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, she added, "We ought to explore a vacation property in Colorado. Megan and Tyler just acquired one in Aspen." I said yes, since nothing screams financial prudence like buying real estate in a state we visit once every 3 years. She gave me that look. "You know the one." Successful individuals own multiple properties, William. Exactly. Successful individuals like Ezra, with his phony reimbursements and Costco wine selections. When I proposed we should be more prudent with our expenditures, a radical notion, I know, rather than spending like we're competing for the title of most irresponsible couple, she erupted. Full soap opera style, wine glass in hand, with an indignant chin tilt, dramatic lighting thanks to the pricey pendant lights I never wanted. "I didn't marry you to live as if we're poor." Ah yes, the wedding vows must have stated, "in wealth, in even greater wealth, until death by credit card bill do us part." I could have married anyone, she spat, as if she were confessing to a crime she took pride in. "But I chose you because I believed you had drive." "Anyone?" I questioned, blinking in disbelief. "Men with real wealth were interested in me," she stated, cold as a stainless steel Sub-Zero fridge. "Investment bankers, doctors, lawyers. I settled for a tradesman because I thought you would achieve something greater." A tradesman. That's how she viewed me. Not the man who built a multi-million-dollar business from mere dirt and drywall. Not the guy who provided her with everything short of a unicorn. No, I was just the sweaty guy in a high-visibility vest she hoped would turn into a hedge fund manager. How charming. Ezra's facade began to crack around the same time. It started subtly, with eye rolls in meetings and fake yawns when I brought up payroll. Then came the critiques, always delivered with that condescending, "I read one article on LinkedIn" tone. "We're hindering ourselves with these outdated methods, William," he would say, as if he were Steve Jobs and I was churning butter in the corner. He aimed to expand rapidly, take on more debt, hire cheaper labor. Sure, let's just set the company ablaze and roast marshmallows. His proposals would have bankrupted us in 2 years. Yet he presented them like they were TED Talks. Even worse, he began to act as if he owned half the damn company. "William, I need you to oversee the Miller site personally. I have meetings all afternoon, meetings with Eliana." "William, can you stay late and wrap up the inventory? I promised Chloe I'd be home for dinner." Dinner with Chloe was really dinner with Eliana, a romantic, Camelot deception. I knew this because I started tracking him with the company vehicle's GPS system, which, by the way, was initially intended for logistics and fuel efficiency, not to expose the world's least discreet affair. Meanwhile, Henry suddenly became extremely enthusiastic about college planning. "Dad, I need your help to co-sign on some student loans. The annual tuition at the state university is $28,000. What he was unaware of was that I had already found out he was accepted to 3 different colleges, but was seeking advice from Ezra about which one to select. because nothing embodies career advice like guidance from someone who once mistook QuickBooks for a dating service. Then Amelia appeared. "Daddy?" she said with wide eyes and a sugary tone. "Mom mentioned you've been anxious about finances. Perhaps you should consider retiring early and let Uncle Ezra take over the business." Ah, yes. At just 14, she was urging her father to relinquish his life's work as if it were a group project she wished to avoid. I almost expected her to hand me a gold watch and a cupcake as I left. The breaking point occurred 6 weeks ago. I returned home early from a job site due to actual equipment issues, not the kind like Ezra's conveniently vanishing morals, and noticed Ezra's car in my driveway. Not concealed, not parked out of sight down the street like someone with a working conscience. Nope, right there in my driveway, as if he had every right to be there. I sat in my truck for a full 10 minutes, like a man contemplating whether to enter a haunted house or just torch it for the insurance payout. I cranked up Springsteen, checked my emails, and responded to a client with the kind of dry professionalism I had honed over the years. Apologies for the delay. We will finalize the quote by Friday, while casually pondering if I should hire a private investigator or simply start burying bodies in the yard. Eventually, I stepped out, slow and deliberate like a man approaching a duel. With the front door wide open, of course. Why establish boundaries when betrayal is simmering in your kitchen? There he was. Ezra, fully dressed, as smug as ever, sitting at my kitchen table sipping from one of my favorite mugs. Eliana was across from him in a silk robe at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Her hair was damp from a recent shower, freshly pampered, no doubt, with the $300 night cream she once insisted would pay for itself and boost her confidence. Amelia was at the breakfast bar either doing homework or pretending to, most likely solving for X in an equation titled How to Emotionally Bankrupt Dad in 5 Simple Steps. "Hey, bro," Ezra said, as if it were just another Tuesday poker night. "Just stop by to check on Eliana and the kids. You know how Chloe gets worried when I'm working late." Eliana, bless her dedication to the act, looked up and smiled like June Cleaver on Xanax. "Honey, you're home early. Is everything all right?" The level of gaslighting was truly Olympic. Honestly, they weren't even attempting to hide it. No scrambling, no fake panic, no, "oh no, my towel slipped" moment. Just self-satisfied coffee, sipping, and assured eye contact, as if this were their home, and I was the visitor. "Just some equipment issues," I replied, commas in a coma. "Nothing serious." Ezra stood up, patted his jeans, probably checking if his conscience was still absent. "Well, I should be on my way," he said, nodding as if we were old business associates rather than adversaries. "Thanks for the coffee, Eliana, and don't worry about our discussion. Everything will turn out fine." "Oh, I'm sure it will." He embraced me, hugged me, like Judas at a family barbecue. I caught a glimpse of his wedding ring, tucked into his front pocket as if even it couldn't bear the weight of the hypocrisy. Eliana's lipstick was smudged in that distinctive way that suggested she had sprinted down a hallway after a secret encounter. Amelia glanced up at me and offered a sweet smile. "How was your day at work, Daddy?" It was splendid, simply splendid. That evening, while they all peacefully slumbered under my roof, likely envisioning trust funds and inheritance details, I reached my final conclusion. They weren't merely deceiving me, they were ridiculing me, challenging me to see, grinning at me while wielding knives behind their backs. It was time to demonstrate how mistaken they were. Last week, I initiated my strategy like a general executing a precise military operation, if that general were also vindictive, spiteful, and exceptionally skilled with spreadsheets. The advantage of managing a tech company is that everything must be impeccably timed and accurately carried out. One overlooked detail, one faulty cable, and the entire system fails. Interestingly, The same concept applies seamlessly to dismantling the lives of individuals who believed I was too oblivious to recognize an affair occurring in my own kitchen. Phase 1. Financial ruin. I had spent months playing the long game, discreetly transferring funds from our joint accounts into separate legally safeguarded entities, LLCs, trusts, whatever acronym would leave Eliana and the IRS equally baffled. The key was to maintain balance, ensuring the checking account remained sufficiently full so she would never realize the savings had become merely ornamental. Each time she scheduled a spa day or purchased another handbag that looked suspiciously like the other 9 she already owned, she was, in fact, using borrowed funds. I secured a business line of credit backed by company assets. Because who needs cash flow when plotting revenge? On Monday morning, I went full scorched earth, shutting down every joint account and canceling all shared credit cards with the self-satisfied efficiency of a man shedding excess baggage. A few hours later, right on cue, the call came in. Her name flashed on my screen like a warning signal. I answered with the composure of someone who knew precisely what kind of handbag she had attempted to purchase and exactly how declined it had been. "What on earth did you do to our accounts?" she yelled. "Oh," I replied with the nonchalant tone of someone flipping pancakes. "I consolidated them for better interest rates. Just streamlining things. You know how much you dislike paperwork." "But my card was declined." "Yes, the new ones should be arriving Wednesday." Spoiler alert, they would not. I had never ordered them. I was too busy internally chuckling at the thought of Eliana, dressed in silk and fury, being informed by a teenage Nordstrom cashier that her payment had failed twice. Phase 2. Taking down Ezra. On Tuesday morning, I met with my attorney and my accountant. I brought the receipts, literal evidence of Ezra's habit of charging personal expenses to the company, as if it were his own private ATM, vacations, lavish dinners, anything he couldn't expense to his own moral failing. They were both equally horrified and impressed. "Wow," my accountant remarked. "Did he genuinely think he'd evade capture?" "Ezra has never faced consequences," I responded, "until now." They prepared the termination documents, a demand for repayment, a delightful assortment of legal threats dressed in business formal attire. I ensured the letterhead appeared particularly intimidating. On Wednesday morning, Ezra arrived at work as if it were just another day. Only his access badge failed to work. His office was cleared out, his nameplate missing, his emails locked, and a security guard, Big Joe, a former Marine, was waiting for him in the lobby like a concierge of repercussions. As Ezra stood there, mouth agape, attempting to comprehend his digital banishment, his company car was parked outside, getting acquainted with a tow truck. The repossession agent waved in his direction. I like to believe that was the highlight of his week. Ezra rang me 17 times. I allowed each call to go unanswered. On the 18th attempt, I picked up. "What the hell, William? You can't just throw me out. We're family." Ezra's tone was laced with righteous anger, as if he hadn't just been caught with his pants down in every possible way. I took a sip of my coffee and gazed out my office window like a villain in a poorly produced soap opera. "Family doesn't steal from one another," I replied, as calm as a cucumber resting in dry ice. "Review your termination letter. You'll discover a charming summary of $47,000 in misappropriated funds and misused company assets." "You can't prove anything," he retorted, his voice hitting that high-pitched note it always did when he felt trapped. I could almost hear him pacing back and forth. I reclined in my chair and smiled. "Go ahead, sue me. Take me to court, but remember, I have evidence, Ezra. Photos, credit card statements, GPS records from company cars. Would you like me to send copies to Chloe, or would you rather explain to your wife why you were diverting money from your brother to support an affair with his spouse?" That silenced him. A lovely silence, one so rich I wish to bottle it and market it as a luxury scent. "Oh, Tagacha, you're crazy," he eventually murmured, as if he had just stumbled upon a family secret. "No," I said, "I'm not. You just believed I was." I could nearly hear him aging on the line. Then I added, like a cherry atop a revenge sundae, "Oh, and Ezra, the IRS will be reaching out regarding unreported income. You might want to find a good accountant, or perhaps a stress ball." Click. Phase 3. The children learn about consequences. I labeled it like a chapter in a self-help guide for betrayed spouses craving poetic justice. Henry's college fund, in my name only. A 529 plan I had diligently contributed to for 12 years. 12 years of sacrifice, budgeting, and resisting the temptation to purchase an overly powerful fishing boat. Gone in one magnificent, legally binding transaction. $170,000 transferred into a protected LLC faster than Eliana could say, "That's not what it appears to be." Amelia's sweet 16 BMW fund? A neat $45,000 I had earmarked to get her the car of her dreams. Because apparently, high school parking lots are the new showcases for cars that now serve as operating capital for my new business venture, Petty Enterprises, LLC. Thursday morning, I was on fire, metaphorically speaking, unless you count the blazing dumpster that was my previous marriage. I canceled their cell phone plans, removed them from my health insurance as dependents, and closed the credit card accounts they used for gas, food, and emergency Starbucks runs. Henry discovered it when his debit card was declined in the school cafeteria. I liked to envision it happening while he held a tray with 2 slices of pizza, a juice, and a smug look on his face. Amelia found out during third period when her phone shut down mid-text, hopefully while she was sending a selfie captioned, "My life is perfect." Naturally, they both reached out to their mother in a panic, and of course, she called me in a complete rage. "You're punishing the children for what?" "I'm teaching them that actions have consequences," I replied in the calmest, most fatherly tone I could muster while driving past Nordstrom. "They decided to assist you in betraying me. Now they'll experience what life is like without my financial backing." "They're merely children," Eliana had remarked. "Henry is 17, old enough to erase security footage and deceive his father without hesitation. Amelia is 14, capable of creating false alibis like a miniature mob attorney. If they're mature enough to engage in wrongdoing, they're mature enough to confront justice. I didn't establish the rules. I merely upheld them with the quiet precision of a man who feels betrayed and is finished being everyone's cash machine." Eliana ended the call abruptly. A typical move. She's always had a flair for the dramatic. I'm surprised she didn't add a violin performance, or at least smash something fragile. An hour later, I received a text from Henry. "Dad, please call me. I need to explain." "Sure, kid. I'll just fit you in between being betrayed and facing the repercussions." I didn't return the call. Phase 4. Eliana's wake-up call. Friday morning was breathtaking. I woke up early, brewed my coffee in silence, without the blender running for one of her $14 smoothies that promised inner peace, and left for work like any other day. I left Eliana sleeping soundly in our bed. You know, the one where she'd been getting her exercise with my brother while I was out earning the money that funded her expensive yoga pants and collagen smoothies. At 10 a.m., just as Eliana was deep into her warrior pose at class, the moving company arrived. A fantastic team, courteous, punctual, and completely unfazed by my detailed instructions. They took everything that was legally mine. My personal items, all the furniture I had purchased before our marriage, tools, electronics, clothes, everything was gone. They even took the custom gaming chairs and sports gear I had given to the kids. All of it, because I financed it, and that makes it mine. By noon, the house resembled a place that had been ransacked by someone with taste and legal receipts. Eliana returned home to an empty house. Vacant rooms, the echoes of her poor choices reverberating off the bare walls. On the kitchen counter lay a single note. Divorce papers will be delivered on Monday. Do not contact me directly. All communication through lawyers only. She called me repeatedly. My phone lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. I let it ring. By then, I was already 200 miles away, driving towards something that resembled dignity and possibly tranquility. That was 3 months ago. I'm composing this final chapter from my cabin in Montana, where I've been doing specialized HVAC installations for upscale mountain homes. The work is demanding, the pay is outstanding, and the only drama I face now is whether the elk will block the driveway again. My attorney managed the divorce proceedings. With the evidence I had compiled, it was essentially uncontested. Court was a cathartic experience. They say divorce court is meant to be sorrowful and soul-crushing, but for me, it was more beneficial than therapy. Less expensive, too. Well, if you exclude the legal fees and the fact that I had to sit across from Eliana pretending she was the sufferer, even as her lawyer attempted to argue that my emotional detachment drove her to have a multi-year affair with my brother, right? Because obviously, the natural response to feeling neglected is to cheat on a bed financed by your spouse. But I was ready. I wasn't there to plead, negotiate, or bargain. I arrived with a binder, one of those hefty, daunting black ones, the type that clearly indicates I have documentation. And I'm ready to make you weep in front of a judge. Emails, call logs, hotel invoices, images. One notably poetic screenshot of a text from Eliana to Ezra stated, "He's at work again." I despise how responsible he is. The judge blinked twice at that remark. I allowed her attorney to stumble through the typical nonsense, character references, vague insinuations about my coldness, and some overly dramatic sighing about how the marriage had been lacking. When it was my moment, I presented the judge with the binder and declared, "This is all of it. Comprehensive evidence of the affair, financial deceit, emotional manipulation, and my personal favorite, coordination with an underage accomplice thanks to our children. There's even a section marked lies shared during yoga class." Eliana appeared to be attempting to astral project out of the courtroom. Her attorney attempted to object. I smiled. "No problem, Your Honor. I've already sent digital copies to both legal representatives." Ezra didn't even attend the hearing. His attorney cited anxiety and ongoing legal matters. I presume that's legal jargon for hiding in a Motel 6, hoping the FBI doesn't show up. But his family received the complete package too, including a few cousins who once labeled me dull. It turns out dull husbands make frightening prosecutors. The most satisfying part? The court had no choice but to acknowledge the facts. It wasn't a shouting contest. It wasn't a he said, she said scenario. It was a systematic, surgical dismantling of the fabrications they had constructed their fantasy upon, and when the judge made the ruling, it felt almost anticlimactic. Because by that point, Eliana had already lost everything that was important to her: the advantage, the empathy, the pretense. She wasn't leaving this marriage. She was being pulled out with the receipts attached. Additionally, I took the initiative to send all the evidence I had compiled to every single family member, friend, neighbor, her colleagues, and anyone who had ever joined us for a Christmas celebration. Eliana received exactly what she was entitled to according to state law. Nothing extra, nothing less. Just as she had always contributed to our marriage. The house was sold to settle the enormous pile of debt she had accumulated, as if it were a competitive activity. Remember, I had replaced our savings with borrowed funds, the magic trick of the decade. She believed she was constructing a future. It turns out she was merely making minimum payments on an illusion. After the legal expenses, court fees, and debt settlement, she left with approximately $12,000. I can only imagine she felt quite empowered cashing that check. Perhaps she'll use it to purchase a fraction of another man's soul. I do have to pay child support, but just the minimum amount. Ezra? Oh, Ezra's life didn't just unravel. It fell apart with a level of dramatic flair that warranted its own Netflix docuseries. Chloe, his long-suffering spouse, filed for divorce quicker than you can say embezzling adulterer. The instant she discovered the affair and the misappropriated company funds, she gathered the kids and rushed back to her hometown, somewhere peaceful, with fewer cheaters per square mile. But wait, there's more. The IRS investigation I politely initiated? Yes, that revealed 3 full years of tax evasion. Apparently, Ezra believed TurboTax was merely a suggestion. Now he's confronting federal charges and owes over $220,000 in back taxes and penalties. He attempted to launch his own plumbing business, a bold move for a man lacking credibility and facing a felony indictment. But what a twist of fate. No insurance company is willing to back someone who believes a business ledger is akin to a choose-your-own-adventure novel. The last update I received was that he's now carrying pipes and cleaning up debris as a day laborer for $15 an hour, which is almost poetic, given that he used to boast about offloading manual tasks. It seems he has delegated himself straight to the lowest rung of the ladder. And the kids? Oh, those dear children who once rolled their eyes at me from the leather interior of the Range Rover I financed. Henry had to take out enormous student loans to go to community college instead of the prestigious 4-year institution he had aimed for. It appears that tuition isn't something you can cover with arrogance and treachery. And Amelia, my beloved teenage legal advisor, is now working part-time at a fast food restaurant to fund her own phone and wardrobe. A couple of weeks ago, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I nearly let it go unanswered. Nowadays, if it's not my attorney, my contractor, or someone verifying a dinner booking, I usually don't answer, but something compelled me. Perhaps it was that same morbid curiosity that leads people to watch car crash videos that made me swipe to accept. William, please, I need to speak with you. Eliana, naturally. I reclined in my chair, gazing at the ceiling as if God might provide an answer. She must have engaged a private investigator, likely funded by a credit card she previously lied about. Debt is the one thing she remains loyal to. You have 5 minutes, I stated. Make it a TED Talk. She began to cry, right on cue. It was almost remarkable how quickly she could produce tears when she believed they still held influence. I made a grave error, she claimed, as if it were a shocking plot twist in a Hallmark film. I was bewildered, experiencing some sort of midlife crisis. I never intended for things to escalate this much. Sure, 2 years spent in hotel rooms, whispering with my brother in my own kitchen, and allowing our daughter to deceive me, all just a midlife blip. A bit of yoga, a bit of betrayal, and boom, suddenly she's the sufferer of a minor mistake. I understand how it appears, she continued, but I do love you. I've always loved you. At this moment, I was half expecting Ashton Kutcher to burst in and shout, "Punked." Ezra convinced me that you didn't value me, that you were stifling my potential, she added. I realize now he was merely using me. Oh, how the tables have shifted. What a pity. If only someone had forewarned her. Like, I don't know, everyone with a functioning brain. What do you want, Eliana? Let's not pretend I'm unaware already. I want my family back. I want to return home. I chuckled, a genuine laugh, a hearty laugh, the kind that makes your dog give you a puzzled look. Home to what? The house has been sold. The kids resent you for dragging them into your little spy game. And I'm 1,800 miles away, Eliana. I've started a new life, one that excludes you, Ezra, or your manipulative TED Talks. I'll relocate anywhere, she insisted. I'll do anything. Please, William, I can't make it on my own. Ah, yes, there it is. The reality, not I love you, not I miss our family, but rather I can't make it. You should have contemplated that before reaching out to me, that stubborn plumber in your text to my brother. A long silence followed, reminiscent of a full Shakespearean pause, the kind you experience when someone realizes the guillotine's rope has been severed. You noticed those. I witnessed everything, Eliana. Every image, every text, every tiny scheme you and Ezra devised to turn my life into a punchline. She attempted to change the subject. Typical narcissist maneuver. I felt furious when I penned those words. I didn't truly mean them. Yes, you absolutely did. You wed a tradesman believing you could transform him into something more upscale. And when that failed, you exchanged me for my brother as if I were last year's model of an iPhone. The tears intensified. Now, there's none at all. I pictured her gripping her phone as if it were a lifeline in a Target break room. What about the children? They require their father. The kids have made their choice. For 2 years they deceived me to support you. Henry's matured. He can handle this. Amelia, she'll understand what integrity means even if it's the tough way. William, please, her voice cracked. I'm employed at Target now. I can hardly cover rent. My friends have turned away from me. My own family sees me as repulsive. I have nothing left. I grinned. Not from cruelty, but because justice rarely unfolds so neatly. Good, I replied. Now you comprehend how I felt when I uncovered that my wife and my brother had spent 2 years conspiring to ruin everything I had built. 2 days later, my phone rang once more. An unknown number at first. I thought it might be a telemarketer attempting to sell me an extended warranty for a car I no longer own. Honestly, that would have been a better option. Dad, the voice broke through. I didn't respond immediately. I just sighed as if I had aged 2 decades in mere seconds. It's Henry. Mom mentioned she spoke with you. Ah, the wayward son returns. I reclined in my chair and gazed at the ceiling. Proceed, I said flatly. I know you despise us, but we're in a tight spot. Yep, you're correct. I do loathe you, Henry. A long silence followed. I envisioned him staring at the phone, perhaps clutching his chest in feigned heartbreak. I realize I messed up, he finally admitted. I know I shouldn't have assisted Mom in hiding things from you, but I was frightened. She said if you found out, you'd divorce her and we'd lose everything. So you aided her in plotting to ruin me first, I replied dryly. Solid plan. Really reinforces that my choice to leave you was justified. That wasn't right. I didn't grasp what was truly happening. I thought I was shielding the family by erasing security footage and lying to you for 2 years. I laughed bitterly. You didn't protect the family, Henry. You helped crush it with a dump truck and then tried to pin the blame on me for the tire tracks. I was just a kid. Screw you, kid. You were old enough to commit offenses, Henry. You were old enough to look me in the eye and deceive me. You were old enough to assist your mother and my brother in ruining me. Don't underestimate yourself. Adulthood arrived early for you. He sounded frantic now. Dad, I can't afford college. The loans aren't sufficient. Amelia's struggling in school because she has to work. Mom can barely manage rent. Sounds like you have an issue, I said, taking a sip of coffee and savoring the taste of karma with a hint of hazelnut. We're your family. No, you were my family. Now you're just an irritating phone call. My family wouldn't have spent 2 years scheming against me. My family wouldn't have called me foolish behind my back. My family would never have assisted someone in stealing from me. His voice cracked. What do you expect us to do? Plead. Have I ever called you asking for anything? Nope. It's you who desires something. You can't offer me anything, kid. So quit wasting both your time and mine. It would be wiser for you to get a second job to manage that college loan. There was a brief silence. Then the indignant teenage fury emerged. Fine, he retorted, but don't think we'll ever forgive you for leaving us behind. I smirked, sharp and icy. As I mentioned, kid, you can't give me anything, I responded, and ended the call. Yesterday, Amelia took a different tactic, a handwritten letter no less sent through my attorney. I had to commend her for that. Clever. If she had dedicated half as much effort to ethics as she did to getting around my contact blocks, She might have made it into the National Honor Society. 2 pages, neatly penned, blue ink. She probably sat at a kitchen table somewhere with her "Please Feel Sorry for Me" playlist on repeat, gripping a glitter pen as if it were a lifeline. Apologies, regrets, please, the entire tragic performance. She claimed she was just 12 when it all began, didn't grasp what was happening, thought she was making her mom happier. Because clearly nothing signifies childlike innocence like collaborating to hide an affair with your father's brother. She noted how I was always busy, right? Because someone needed to pay the bills while they played suburban Game of Thrones behind my back. She wondered if I could assist them in finding jobs, perhaps write them a reference, help them get back on their feet. I read that letter 3 times. First, to confirm its authenticity, second, to admire the boldness, and a third time, just for amusement. Then I folded it neatly, walked it to the fireplace, and watched it ignite. Quite dramatic. A 10 out of 10 experience. It felt like I was in a Shakespearean revenge drama. If Shakespeare had been cheated on by a spouse, betrayed by 2 children, and robbed by his own brother. Eliana didn't just sleep with Ezra. No, she chose to do it in our bed, in our home. She transformed my sanctuary into a stage for her little performance. She made me a fool in my own narrative. And the kids? They weren't merely spectators. They weren't confused toddlers with jam on their faces. They actively participated, willingly. They lied to me directly, looked me in the eye, and smiled while helping to orchestrate my disgrace. And why? Because they believed I would never discover the truth. That I was too occupied, too trusting, what was the term Henry used once? Yes, naive. They thought I was too foolish to figure it out, too eager for love, too attached to ever leave. They were mistaken on every count. Dear listeners, please share your opinions in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.